everyone. A warm welcome to our 14th, it's already the 14th episode with Coaching Gupshup with Smita and Kiwa. Today we are here to explore a very key approach that we follow in coaching. And we at Coacharya are big fans of Carl Roger. And this is one of his approach, which is called the Unconditional Positive Regard, UPR that we say. So today, Kiva and I would explore on this topic. Do let us know what you feel after you heard our Gupshup. Let us know what you feel about this topic and any experiences that you had in your coaching journey using this approach. So, Kiva, shall we begin?
Absolutely. Let's get started, and really excited to explore this with you and discuss like what we both think about this and its application in coaching and in real life.
So Kiva, why don't you start as to what do you understand by unconditional positive regard?
So we've used this word, not used, but it's such an important foundational aspect of coaching that every time I think of it now, I almost associate it with creating a safe space and a space that accepts a person for who they are. That includes their thought processes, their value system, their perceptions, their emotions, and just creating that space where a person knows that there is grace and acceptance in who they are, and there isn't a fight there. No, it's not about proving that you could have been this or you could have been that. Unconditional positive regard is about holding space to allow a person to know that who they are is accepted fully, and yeah.
When I came across this word in my coach training journey, so I had raised this question as to how easy or how easy is it basically to have unconditional positive regard. We know that and or like from childhood, what we have seen is having certain kind of feelings, right? Like the positive feelings that we say in terms of happy or all the positive emotions, only that to have a positive a positive regard for the person. Somebody has done something good and then we have a positive regard. So it's like it's always has been very conditional, like having a positive regard. That is supposed to be how it was. But in the space of coaching, when I came across this word, like my mind triggered, like I had so many questions to say that, is it just in the space of coaching? Is it just, only when we're having that coaching conversation are we talking about unconditional positive? So what do you think, like, in terms of whether it's just for the coaching space or like in any relationship?
I do think, the approach is something which is applicable across. I don't think I would not like personally restrict it to just a coaching conversation, because I can also think back of examples. So like I've shared previously that I've been in the education space, and I remember when I was teaching and also when I was working with people who were teaching, there are challenges that they face, right? Like, for example, if I take a child's example, the first thing that you learn is that if a child is exhibiting violent behavior, or showing complete apathy towards a situation, maybe towards their studies or towards anything happening in school, dig deeper, create that space for the child to share what's really happening, build that relationship with the child so the child can, feel space to share. Maybe there's something happening at home, maybe they're struggling with something else, maybe it's something with the peer group. And when you do that and you get on that, creating that space, you actually always realize that the children who probably exhibited those behaviors were the ones who needed that safety net, that space to express the challenges that they were probably facing at home or in their community or in their neighborhood. And when that space is created, there's a shift that happens. And I think similarly, right? Like even with other, let's say, even in friendships, let's say you're seeing some kind of a challenge with, let's say, your friend exhibiting certain kinds of behaviors which seem negative to you. How can you just not create that judgment or push your judgment of that's a negative thought to saying, I'm experiencing this and I thought I'll hear from you on what's happening. So it's not about jumping to a conclusion, but creating that space to acknowledge that what a person is feeling is like regarded. We're not dismissing it. That dismissing, like you said, right? Like only saying good things about a positive behavior and saying, oh, this is something that should happen. It causes negativity and ripple effects for others in many ways. So, yeah. So I do think it's definitely applicable across, and yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm just reminded of my kids' example where both of them are playing cricket professionally and they're learning. And it's like, one will perform good on one day and, one will not. Like, so it's like in my house, I have, I've made this kind of a very open and safe space. Eva. It's been tough, like it's not yet again fully there, but it's like when you're feeling a particular way, like for example, one kid feeling jealous over the other, if that is not coming out in words, or if that safe space, like you're saying, is not accepted with grace, it will show up in other ways. And while I can have unconditional positive regard for the emotion of jealousy, I cannot have unconditional positive regard for if the elder one, say hits the little one. So it's like, how do we create that space where, they find it, easy to say that, I'm experiencing something like that. Like I'm experiencing jealousy.
Correct. I'm also thinking that, maybe accepting jealousy, and even when that space is created, some more thoughts might also come. Maybe it's actually not jealousy. It could also be feeling a sense of failure. It could also be something else, right? Like having sense that if I don't perform, then maybe I will not be, admired equally. There could be many more things that might come up. And I think that's where that non-judgmental space helps, and could lead to a change in the action of another person.
Yeah.
That's actually getting, yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that I'm just thinking that, so is there something called we need to draw a line and say that only for these situations there will be unconditional positive regard? And I don't know what the answer is. Because again, that our value systems also start playing in that case, right? But if I go back to like how we would define unconditional positive regard, it would also include this aspect of showing complete regard for anything. So I don't know what the answer is, but any thoughts on that?
I think, especially in a coaching conversation, right? Like if the client is expressing something that has already happened before, and here they are, finding a space, a safe space, and somebody who's listening well without judgment to share it out and to call it out that, something happened. And here is where, the unconditional positive regard can come. But like I said in my example, I mean, I'm just saying that, like, when something like that is happening in front, I will need to maybe, hold the hand of the elder one to say that and talk, right? Like to stop some kind of a physical or emotional hurt to the other. So, yeah.
So I'm just trying to think that what really shifts in a person when there is unconditional positive regard. So, like, what is it that one experiences?
I really feel that, so Carl Rogers brings in, uses congruence and empathy. So those are the other two important points in the Carl Rogers framework. Right? And so by having that unconditional positive regard, I think what we are helping the other person is with knowing their own self-worth, right? And I, in my mind, I might be thinking about myself in a particular way, and my ideal self would be something else. only if there is an acceptance, like of whatever I'm feeling currently, or whatever my thought process has been currently, is only where I can bridge the gap between, what is happening now and what I would really like to happen. Yeah. So I really feel it's a shift in the mindset about my own self, like the way I have approached till now, and somebody maybe giving that approach of unconditional positive regard will help me to reach to my highest potential.
In a way, saying that it helps one to realize the worth that they actually have within them. So I think somewhere, if let's say the comparison is coming, then the shift could be that you realize that you don't need that comparison. There are strengths that you have, there is a different outlook that you have, and something that you bring into the world, which really makes you you. So in a way, it goes back to asking yourself and exploring what your values are, what is important to you as a person, and anything external, anything outside of that kind of gets removed, and you probably find the core of your own self-worth and direction, like you said, towards the potential that you actually have and work towards that. So in a way, it shifts your perspective as well. So I'm thinking that, let's say in a situation where somebody has caused an offense, and they have been operating with this thought process of maybe anger because something happened to me, and so I justify the act that I've done is justified because that is a thought process that is is driving me right now. But let's say when you come to this space and you have this unconditional positive regard from a coach or from a friend or from somebody you're connecting with, and this person helps you to say that what you've done, it's not about what you've done, but what you're experiencing is okay. Right? And then from there, things start shifting for the person because now the fight isn't there anymore. Right? Because otherwise, subconsciously, I'm fighting. Right? Like you said, people usually, we have this tendency, right? Like the regard is given only for the positive act. So somewhere in your subconscious, you're fighting because you know that the world doesn't appreciate what you have done. Right? So it's like you accept that, okay, maybe I made a mistake, but I also accept and have empathy for myself that it came from a place and I lost my control. So I think that connection kind of gets formed for a person to then shift that, okay, so next time it happens, how do I want to respond?
Yeah.
So something like
I
that.
think it's very therapeutic, and Carl Roger, he was a therapist, right? Like it came from that therapy approach, but we really see that it blends so well with the coaching process, and it helps one to accept the way it is right now, so that I really liked what you said in terms of that that fight is no more there. I am not fighting anymore now to what it is, like if it is anger, if it is jealousy, the acceptance, and from there, with the empathetic approach of the coach, with the unconditional positive regard from the coach, there is growth.
Yeah, I'm just thinking maybe it's the fight that stops because you realize, oh, I don't need to fight. I have a space that understands me. So what's the fighting for? So yeah.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, I'm thinking, sorry, Smita, you were saying something?
No. Yeah. I was just thinking of, what is conditional positive
Yeah.
regard.
Yeah. So when we say conditional, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking, so basically, in a way, saying if you don't give unconditional regard and there's a conditional regard, then what is the difference in that? Right?
Yeah. I think like what we covered earlier, it's like when one thinks or feels in a particular way that we are thinking is only when we have that conditional regard, right? Like because the mind really connects with that person because I've seen that before, right? Like I know it from before because that's the way how I am, right? And as soon as that connect happens, immediately that regard is there. So it's like if there is some kind of a deviation from what I think, and still to give that regard might become challenging.
And I think that is what the actual challenge is, right? Because you might not align with certain acts or certain things. And that's why we put conditions that for this, there can be unconditional regard, but for this, I cannot have unconditional regard. But I don't think there is anything like that, like, because even for an offender, for that person to accept and change the course in the future, there will have to be a degree of acceptance coming in from our end. I don't know if it's possible and if it's the right thing always, but that's where that question comes, right? Because it is against your values. Like, for example, let's say somebody might say, like, hitting is a no-no or something is a no-no, but that is because we value that to be a complete no-no, right? So, like, does it mean that somewhere we put conditions that for certain things, yes, there can be unconditional regard, but for certain things there can't be, I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems really tough and challenging even as I'm saying it.
Yeah. No, so I think, with regard to what is a no-no, like hitting, right? Like, I mean, one cannot have unconditional positive regard if the act is, you say, I'm feeling angry and I'll go and murder someone. I'm feeling angry, I'll go and slap someone. So, and for that act to have, for somebody to have a positive regard, it's about, um, there will be conditional, it is conditional in that sense. Like, all we are trying to say here is for the feelings and the thoughts that sometimes we feel in a negative way, or sometimes we get those emotions which are dropping us, dropping our energy and not letting us to move forward. So it is for the purpose of growth, helping the other one, like we said, self-worth, making them understand their own self-worth, or not even understand, somebody realizing their own self-worth through the process of, unconditional positive regard. So I think it is meant for the purpose of growth, and it's also therapeutic. It heals people to, for whatever emotions. We don't know, right? Like, what was the childhood? What was the environment in one grew? And what happened, really what happened during the childhood days. So it's like, if today, like, constantly, if there is anger, constantly, if there is the feeling of no self-worth, I think by this process, through the coaching process, it really helps about self-acceptance.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking that, is there something like there can always be unconditional positive regard?
I think that it is about what, and I think it can be. I really feel that the unconditional positive regard can always be there.
So
If
even
it
in a
is related
situation,
to, yeah.
even
When
if
it's
it's a
related to,
situation.
sorry, just to complete this, to about the feelings and the thoughts, like I said, right?
Right.
So sorry, you were saying even when the situation?
No, I'm saying even if the situation has an act which you don't resonate with, so then do we draw the line and say there is no regard? There's no unconditional regard?
So,
I
I
think
think
that's
through
where
the
the
coaching
challenge is.
process, yeah,
Yeah.
the coaching process might, stop the act in a way that even maybe, the client or anyone you're having a conversation with, the act might change after having that conversation.
I'm also just thinking that when you are a third person and you are showing that unconditional positive regard, it's one thing. But if you are the affected party, like let's say somebody came and did something to you, and you still want to mend ways, let's say with this person, or you want to make sure that you understand that this probably came from somewhere, right? Can you be in a position to hold that unconditional positive regard? Should you hold it, not hold it? What should it be? Maybe this needs to be another topic altogether.
Another topic, but of course, I think if there is empathy, and if there is that innate need to know that, that came from somewhere, and if that is addressed, it can be mended.
Absolutely.
All right. So with that said, anything, Kiva, before we close our session for today?
I think I really look forward to hearing from some of our viewers today on what they have experienced with regards to unconditional positive regard and how has it played out in their life, and would be really interesting to see, because we've also got these dilemmas, right? Like, is there something called complete unconditional regard for everything, or is there a line, that you don't cross that line, like for certain acts? So like, would love to hear from people on what they think about this. And yeah.
Thank you. Looking forward, and thank you for listening to us. Do let us know what you feel about this workshop and share your points. Thank you,
all.
Kiva. See
Thank you,
you.
Smita. Bye-bye.
Bye.